Hi, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to be here today, and thank you, Father Dan, for the kickoff. So today, for me, it's about optimism, because this stuff will wear you out, and the news will wear you out, and people wear you out, and you'll feel sometimes like you're the only one that might care, and what does it matter? And it matters a lot, and I just want to share some reflections about kind of the why and the how. This was just an introduction of me. I'm into bicycling, and on the left is something that's a big passion of mine. It's an electric bike. If you ever had a chance to ride an electric bike, they're just like there's no going back. They're so fun. And then my daughter is gay, openly gay and married, and she's expecting a baby here in Columbus. Very excited for her. She lives in Worthington, so it was just me after the Pride Parade in Grove City, which was a first last year. I'm probably a better activist than I am a council member, to be truthful. So I'm not sure even. I think they're probably at tension, to be truthful. What Father Dan mentioned, and I need to give a special call out to a good friend of mine from Honda. I think one of the exciting things in retirement or throughout life is knowing your people and people that know you. And a good friend of mine, he's my boss for many years, just out of the blue one day texted me, and I'll go over in a minute, but a book, and Father Dan just started reading it. But the book's focuses on this point about largely that we're here now, in the whole continuum of time, if you will, but we've left an era of time called the Holocene era very quickly. Only 11,500 years in terms of, large years of ice ages and things like that. So this era of the Garden of Eden, we've now, if anyone here is specialized in geology and stuff, we're arguably entering this Anthropocene area where human impact, it's named because of the human impact we're giving it, and the kind of test and kind of pushing the boundaries. So we're living in a very interesting time in our little, eclipse of life here, 30, 60, 70, 80 years, or whatever it might be, that we're leaving an era because we're the ones making the impact, and it's named after humans. And so what I want to just kind of take that as the largest overview, and to kind of the call, like Pope Francis did in 2015, the call for our responsibility. And we have some personal responsibility for our square footage, for what we're doing in life. And I want to appeal to that kind of optimism, that it's so easy to get absorbed in the macro world of things, but what about us, and what can we do? And we have to set the example, I'm convinced. And it's no small act to do the right thing. And myself, Father Dan mentioned this ideal of going back, even if it's just a visit. In my case, I was fortunate to be able to go back to Grove City, where I grew up. I left there at 18. I returned at 56, and to kind of just go through life again there, and remembering what it was in the 1970s and 1980s, and coming back in 2020, some 40 years later, and reflecting of how it can be, or how it's changed. And it's just a certain kind of precious remembrance of our creation. And I always find Pope Francis's quotes just often to be so spot on to how I feel about something, about going back to something of our true selves. In 2019, that was kind of the first attempt. I retired in 2018, and 2019 was the first attempt to try to kind of really set a footprint down with our Creation Care Council that he mentioned. And it was just real simple. We started with fish fries in the early spring of 2019, and all we did was just change the way we really funneled our waste at the end of small fish fries in the Our Lady cafeteria, a school that I was there in my 1960s, in the 1960s. So again, going back to where I came from, and it was just as simple as really just separating a waste stream between landfill, compost, and recycling, and kind of getting the Knights of Columbus on board, and trying to ask for their support. I was new. I just come back to Grove City, and it wasn't as easy, but I think you've met David Free. He was a big help, and Father certainly was all embracing. So Father Dan and Father Jim Colopy were super helpful. So we just kind of took control, and a large support from SWACO, which if you're familiar, there's a landfill in Grove City, and so that's where SWACO is their headquarters are, and so they're very helpful and they're very knowledgeable, and many of those people that are there, I consider now my friends and kind of the eco warriors and kindred spirits with me, but they live in Grove City. Many of those people live in Grove City, so we all kind of had a vested interest in doing the right thing. So we started this at the fish fries, and this was literally the opening night. I mean, I kid you not, we had close to 300 people, and that was the trash we generated. It was less than a 55-gallon bag of trash, and everything else either got recycled or composted that night. So it kind of was almost a science experiment of just trying it in a very contained elementary school cafeteria and having a plan, and it worked. And then we took that example and we kind of said, well, what about the festival? Because that's the big one. And Catholic festivals are so great because at least the one in Grove City is done in a parking lot environment of our school, like 100 degrees or 120 it seems like. It's Death Valley in Grove City in the summer, but 2 nights, and it's contained, right? It's not like the Irish Festival or Comfest or something with these acres and acres of trying to manage. It's a nice little footprint to kind of try something. So we did, and we had tried it in the years prior to me, and there was some fatigue from people that were like the naysayers, I would say, and I remember many times talking to Father Dan how nasty people were getting as we were heading down this path. But we had tried, and we had not done well in, like I just used as an example, in the 2018 festival, we struggled with this top layer of kind of having a lot of just contamination and not being able to truly staff and kind of coach people or guard the containers we were trying to funnel the waste stream into. So just knowing that and kind of knowing what to do, and knowing that we also wanted to go into 2019 and we wanted to add compostable dinnerware and food scraps, recycling, and we wanted to kind of eliminate the bad things as much upstream as we could. So we worked with the vendors and we did some sourcing. We did some of the heavy lifting for them, and you really got to a point where you kind of showed that some of this early cost that they were afraid of largely changing the dinnerware and stuff like that was really negligible in the whole price of what they were selling. And you're talking about a few cents on an item that they're selling for $10 or something like that. So it really became an easy sale, and we just supported them. We did the heavy lifting, and then we had really we applied for a SWACO grant, and it helped offset some of the promotion that we did and stuff like that. So we had this great initiative to kind of give a message, and literally when it was all said and done, this little black wedge is truly the landfill that went to the landfill. 432 gallons in the bottom right of this entire effort of 5,000 customers over 2 nights, and we diverted 86% of the food waste from the landfill, which is again in Grove City's backyard. So it was a great kind of full circle thing, and it was very successful, and it was very kind of easy to count and quantify, and it took quite a few volunteers, but just some good planning, and we a lot of intangibles and tangibles, but the bottom line is all those green containers were the kind of the compost conversion. Blue is, I'm telling you, for starting out, we can have some Q&A here in a little bit. Blue is where it's at for starting out. It's recycling. It's just amazing what you can do just with recycling and changing habits. And that's, in my opinion, the low-hanging fruit that I'm hopefully Pam's going to get going on here and starting to champion for you all. So, and then this other world is a little more difficult, and it can be a little costly. But the net result is trying to reduce what goes to the landfill and stuff like that. So with that, we sprung for shirts. We were, again, in the spirit of Pope Francis, Father Dan and Father Jim actually sponsored these shirts for all our volunteers, and that's what it looked like at the festival. We had these people kind of guarding and watching where waste stream was gone, and yet the trash, it was just very effective. So we're now, it's coming up on 2023, and we're still doing it, and we're going to gear up again for this summer. And I'm not saying we have it down to a science, but we certainly know how to run the play now. That was me back then, and just working on the run. Just kind of this topic of personal stewardship, I just want to speak to a little bit, just daily life. And, we obviously have cans and plastic bottles here, and we have dishwashing stuff that we're going to, reuse and stuff. But really a big breakthrough in February 2022 in Central Ohio was cups. Cups for the longest time were not recyclable. Forever and ever, no cups were recyclable in Central Ohio until February 2022. And I don't think it really, even though this is big news and it's true and all that stuff, I don't think it really, made a big impact in my opinion. I don't think we collectively, our institutions, our Subways, our Starbucks, our fast food places, we clearly have a chance to embrace this, and we really kind of haven't. And I know we're only a year out, but it's one of those things that to me, it's another low-hanging fruit, even on this campus. If you think of traveling, if you travel and just a small example, you go to the airport and you can't take the water with you on the plane, but you can dump it out and maybe take the empty bottle and then refill it on the other side of TSA. I think there's some airports that have a bin where the liquids can go, and then you just take your bottle with you. So those kind of just ingenuity, that could exist, but it doesn't anywhere. So inevitably what happens is this just all goes to the landfill. People are still by and large taking their cups that could have been recycled, and they're, even if it's a coffee, the little hand thing on the side could have been recycled, and they're just not making its way to the right place. So best you can do, because truthfully, commercial institutions aren't set up to kind of accommodate what I'm describing, you can take it home. And for me, I get out of the car, I dump it in the grass, and I walk over to my recycling bin. We have curbside recycling, and I do the right sort at home, but they don't make it easy. No one makes it easy. So it's up to us as leaders of institutions to find ways to make it easier. And just one final note, these are still bad. They're not recyclable. Styrofoam's not recyclable, nor are party cups. Solo party cups are not recyclable. Pretty much all other cups are. These aren't. These cups, no. Still on the Darth Vader list. And then just a little diversion. This is called a bike bus day, and Worthington did this, so it's out of a little bit of the food footprint, but talking about active transportation, where you actively use the human body to move in life. Worthington phys ed teacher did this last October, and we're going to duplicate this in Grove City. It's called a bike bus day, where instead of all these lines of all these parents lining up, for quarter mile or whatever, dropping their kids off at school, and then the buses and everything, is we're going to have bicycles escort the kids to school on 3 different days in May. And the runners are going to have to wear their helmets, but it's another kind of environmental message, is that there used to be a way of going to school that wasn't necessarily a bus or a car. And there maybe can be some rewards for the kids. They're going to get an ice cream coupon this day if they do it. We're going to do 3 schools, and even for an inclusive spirit, people that are disabled, have some developmental challenges or physical or mental challenges, we're going to find a way to get them to roll to school or assist them to get it. But we're doing it at 3 schools, and we've mapped up these subway maps of the adults and even businesses in our community. As part of their volunteering, they're going to help drive the kids into school on the buses, on these bicycle buses. And it'd be some scene, when you get to if this is a subway map and this is the school, the center school then becomes like the city, and it's like some scene out of Forrest Gump where everyone's coming to the end, And so again, just a message, 3 days in 3 days in May that we're looking forward to promoting this. And this, it was an easy get. When I'm working with the bicycle shop, this is the activist in me, the bicycle shop, and we approached the principals and the teachers, and they're like, yeah, we're in. I even live in this town. I'm riding, and where's my route? And I'll be one of the bus drivers. So the hope is like a 1-to-4 ratio, and that's that. So as you know, the importance of meeting people and reading books, I just wanted to emphasize that again. I feel the same way, and that book that I read is this book called Thank You for Being Late by Thomas Friedman. He wrote years ago the book The World is Flat. He's a New York Times columnist. This is kind of his sequel to it. I know Father Dan has just started reading it. So much is packed in here, and so much. But largely his point is this is optimism. He wants to be optimistic about it, and there's a lot of daunting things going on in the world with just acceleration, like Father Dan mentioned. But in the end, the community is where it's at. Your tribe, your people. His point in this book is, if you want the beauty of America, stand on your head, because you're not going to find it at the highest level of government. You're going to find it in communities that's where we look our best. And that's where we have to take charge. And that's what we have to own. And then we could perhaps sustain and nibble at bigger circles of influence. But clearly, your space, your university, your life, your house, your apartment, that's what you got to own. You got to own it. If you can't own it there, don't expect other people to own it outside of that. That's what I got. And I'll take questions if there are any questions. I'll take questions, but
Ask him a lot of questions. We got him here.
Yes, sir.
Was there an issue of diverting the volunteers from other events at the festival and maybe food trucks?
Pardon me, and food trucks? Yeah. We had the Creation Care Council as kind of our core members, and then we tried to engage students at the high schools, for their service hours and things like that. Actually, right now, my understanding, there's a moratorium that students in Central Ohio aren't allowed to earn service hours for your parish picnics. So we ran into a little, somehow that couldn't be done last year, and we lost some people. Bishop Reedy is a feeder school. Our Lady goes into Bishop Reedy, and we thought we had that. So, but in terms of diverting volunteers, I do find, since we started, our volunteer list of people that are in this is growing. So that in other words, they're returning. The people that volunteered the very first year, and now we approach 2023, and I look at my list, it's growing, and we're kind of, I think, finding the eco-warriors, the kindred spirits that want some connection to this in some structured way. So at first, for sure, but now I think it's growing, and frankly, we even find people outside the parish that are just part of the community. If you're familiar with Catholic festivals, Lee Stars in Grove City, it's like an amazingly affordable event for people for our society that maybe can't afford a Disney World or a Kings Island or a Cedar Point, So it's a great entertainment thing, and so a lot of people, this is a great witness to a lot of people of how to throw a party and be responsible, and so I do think we do attract people, a little bit of evangelization perhaps, that aren't even in our parish to say, hey, I'll help you out with keeping our city clean. So.
Do you still serve bottled water?
Yeah, bottled water. So bottled water in itself isn't like evil, but it's evil because we don't always get it to the right recycling places, and there's a little bit of confusion on recycling. Incinerating plastics is not recycling, okay? And shredding and repurposing plastics, which, by the way, Rumpke, and I've left you all with something for your refrigerator, whether it's aluminum or steel, these are the do's and don'ts of the world, and they do have 84% of the manufacturers that take our recycled products, go right over here, I don't know which way to point, but it's pretty close to here, Rumpke's plant. Franklin County all funnels into Rumpke, but those manufacturers that reuse and repurpose are in Ohio. So it's not like we're trying to ship stuff overseas, and that all changed. I think for those that follow this, that all changed. I think it was 2018 or 2019 where China put it into us shipping our plastics across the world. So Rumpke has found manufacturers literally to take our plastics and repurpose them. And I'll be truthful, even in our church in Grove City, we mentioned Sister Nancy, we turned in bottle caps to our church, and basically a manufacturer in Wadsworth, Ohio made a bench for her in our gathering area, and so appropriate for her. And they were clearly from recycled caps from both, and caps and even some prescription bottles. So they figured out how to do that, and so I think now there's like 4 or 5 benches that are in the works at Our Lady. Yes?
Do you think that other churches and organizations are on board in the Grove City area? Is this a growing movement?
Well, I don't know if it's a movement, but I will be brutally honest, COVID killed it, man. I mean, this just didn't become a priority during COVID. So were we on our way, and could it be? I think so. And I know that these other churches are interested even in the small, just real practical things like, cycle of life, like a memorial benches, right? Churches are asking us how we're doing it and where we're sending it to. So in those kind of real pragmatic ways, I think those are the victories you start to get of of small, everyone can be involved, everyone can remember to have a little sorter at home for caps and their prescription bottles, stuff like that. So the answer is yes, but probably not well. Probably not well enough.
And that's it with the process. So based on the process, what would you say is the most effective piece of communication in order to change the mindset and move to recycling composting?
Well, the Catholic answer is he's probably going to say guilt, but but you know, I will say this. I am a big believer in this. When good people feel uncomfortable, they do the right thing. Okay? And a lot of us, it might even be all of us in this room, if we think we're good people and we're speeding down some road and suddenly we see a little feedback, there's a police car ahead, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to slow down. Because the consequences, you know, we're going to feel bad if we get the ticket or hurt the child or whatever it might be or hurt us. But I think when good people see a lot of people doing the right thing, for them to suddenly just kind of go the different way, in a very public setting especially, and kind of be the negative person, if you will, or the negative Nancy, whatever it's called these days. But yeah, I think just, if it's critical mass, I think. When enough people start doing the right thing, it becomes attractive. As opposed to, oh, that's just Sigrist, he's just some eco-nut, you know, whatever. His whole, you know what I mean? I think it's enough people. And I think the sad part about it, I do think a lot of the messaging does happen in education, does happen with our children, and doesn't get reinforced at home. And I get it, today's world especially, it's a rat race of life. It's the endless hamster wheel. And the kids are just going to do what their parents buy. If you don't have the recycling bin in the house, you know, it's just, their cans are going to go in the trash. Their bottles are going to go in the trash. So plastic bottles to me right now are like, I don't have great disdain for them, but I do think, all right, what are you doing with it? Where is the recycling bin here for all these plastic bottles? You know, so if we as an institution don't embrace the fact that it's a utility and it's going to be tough to break away from, what are we doing about it? That's where Pam comes in. Okay, that's where it's like, what are we going to do about it? All right, if we're going to say it's because it is. I put on a road race every year. I've tried to fill 1,000, 2,000 cups on Thanksgiving Day morning for compostable cups. Not easy, and there's issues with it, and it's time, and it's frankly it's enough people, and yeah. So I'm not saying to give up on plastic bottles, but if they're going to be here and we're going to use them, what's our answer? Our answer is to make sure that we get them to Rumpke and that Rumpke's get them to the right place and they're repurposing.
Do you have a school, you have a grade school?
At Our Lady, yeah.
Okay, and then are they doing this?
Yeah, they are. They're doing a good job. And the kids, and I would say this, and again, back to what are we doing as an institution? We have, and maybe you do it, or you and I'm just not so familiar, you know, we have the drinking fountains that have the refillable for your bottles, right? And it says you're now the 2000th person today, you know, and here's your ticket or something. I don't know. We have that. So those are invaluable. But that's what an institution can do, right? That's what an institution can do. So those are the hard things, I think, the right things. They're easy to know, but they're hard to do. And sometimes they take money. But again, SWACO's a great partner and a knowledge base. And when you get involved with them and start working with them, and also Rumpke is kind of the private enterprise in our area, man, there's no question you can't get answers. And when you tell them that they got something not necessarily wrong, but it could be better, they're very coachable, and they want their messaging. It's just a good circle of feedback, and they want to be the best.
So from your perspective, all my gathering of my things at home and throwing in the blue trash can, recycling bin, and Rumpke comes and picks that up, they recycle.
It's like 85%. It's like 85%. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but in Grove City, Rumpke doesn't pick it up. But your hauler may be Rumpke to begin with. Our hauler is local waste, and they take it to Rumpke. And they dump it on the floor. And then if they dump it on the floor and there's a lot of contamination, they know the route that it came from in Grove City, and they actually can penalize Grove City and kind of charge extra if it's a mess.
So we want to be honest with that. Manufacturers that use recycled materials, do you have a list of those people that
I can get it, but I don't have one on me. But Rumpke clearly will. Then again, they're the private enterprise making a profit that has found a source for cups on February 2nd of last year. And that's just one example. But I mean, they have it for the other ones, and I'm sure we can get it. I mean, that's their business. They have, I tell you what, they do YouTube's better than anyone on these kind of topics. But I don't know if they've gone to that level. But I'm sure they have no reason not to offer that up and what those companies do.
Seems to me that's another area that we promote is we purchase or we use manufacturers that we use, that recycle.
Oh yeah, that's the only reason you would recycle. If no one wants it, no one wanted cups forever. So what was Rumpke going to do with them? They said don't put cups at your curb. And the other thing, just while we're on the topic, don't put bags in your recycling, right? Don't put bags. You get bags, bad. Bad. They're okay to take to Giant Eagle, Kroger, and all these other places, especially if they're not crinkly, but don't put them, I mean, you can, I'm sure it's the same with you. You can go down your street on trash day and recycling day, and I just see all these red recycling containers sitting, all these bags, and I'm like, oh my God. I don't know how it works, but I mean, someone's frustrated somewhere.
Do you have to clean the containers? Is it better?
I think generally, yeah, I mean, I know to that end, yes. I mean, I think some degree of cleaning. I know one thing is don't even think of a greasy pizza box. You know, that you think of a manufacturer trying to make a cup or paper or something with that, it ain't gonna work. Yeah, Rubino's, I don't know, maybe okay, you know, I don't know.
So when you had the picture of the fish fry,
Mm-hmm.
and you had the three kind of compartments
Mhm.
that you created for compost and recyclables, and that was, did Swanko provide that?
Yeah, so what Swaco does is, again, not just provide, but really hold your hand with it too. Yeah, and what you'll do, or hopefully your volunteer team will do, is kind of cater it to that event. So in our case, you know, fish fry, we know what the items are going to be, and so there's just some things, little nemesis you're not going to be able to get away from, small little fill in the blank, you know, just a stir for the coffee, or you know, until you overcome that. But you know, just a relish thing, or a butter pat, or something like that. You know, just really minuscule things that it's going to be tough to find a way around. And then you make those and you put them on the one for landfill, right? And you say that inevitably that goes, inevitably. Now that was a time when cups, right? So cups had to go in there too. So yeah, so you Photoshop some of it, but they're pretty good. They have most of it. I mean, you're just messing with something unique to your. And the same thing with the festival. We'll finesse it, like in a great way. At Schmitz, a little plug for Schmitz. Schmitz is one of our big caterers. Their cream puff clamshells are compostable, and I'm telling you right now, clamshells in general, anything that's from the deli and stuff like that have that kind of lid thing, it's not recyclable. So to spend the money and to kind of do it right and get a compostable one, I got to give it up for Schmitz. And all their stuff. They're like our best vendor and our biggest vendor at the festival. So they're locked into this world in a very good way. But yeah, so you can finesse. How much do you want to finesse it? I mean, and believe me, I think there's.
The top parts, do they provide those for free? The green.
Oh yeah, you can get that for free. You leave a deposit check. Yeah, so that's. And nowadays, yeah, it's really improved. And here's this little bucket. This back to the point about you don't want to be filling up these things with water and ice. You know what I mean? And it's not a big deal. Someone at a festival, they're just getting their last drink, throw it in, and then kind of do the right thing with their cup. So, other questions?